Did you know that 10 years ago, El Paso County schools, traditional districts, as well as charters, had more than 177,000 students? Now you do. Last year, that was at 160,000 students. These are the kinds of demographic and enrollment changes that our K-12 education reporter, Claudia Lorena Silva, has been covering extensively, and the financial impacts that that's causing to our districts and to our community. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Southwest University for sponsoring this panel. Joining Claudia on stage are 4 education leaders who have diverse perspectives on these issues. We'll start first with Mr. James Vasquez, Superintendent of the Socorro Independent School District. We have next Brenda Carrillo, an algebra teacher at Tornillo High School, and the Region 19 Secondary Teacher of the Year. Manny Soto is a retired education administrator who's one of El Paso's leading experts on interpreting school data and explaining school finance. Again, have your notebooks ready. And Dr. Cliff Tanabe, the Dean of UTEP's College of Education. Thank you all for being here. Claudia, take it away.
Hi, Cindy. Well, thank you all for being here today. I just want to say that as we're talking about El Paso's future, I think one of the most important things in the discussion is the children. Obviously, what is happening in El Paso schools today is going to have impacts for our future. So I'm really glad that we're having this conversation right now. I think it's been said many times that what happens in the schools is the canary in the coal mine. I stole that quote from Bob. It's not mine. Thank you. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Vasquez. So how are El Paso schools adapting to declining birth and enrollments? Are El Paso schools changing approaches to instruction and budgeting and other factors?
So good morning. Decline in enrollment is new to Socorro. El Paso and Isleta have been experiencing declines in enrollment for many years, decades in fact. This first started for us in the 2023-24 school year, and it was sudden. We went from increasing our enrollment by 500 one year to a decline of 700 the next. So we had to really pivot fast and at that time, because we had lost enrollment, 25% inflation, flat funding from the state. We were hurting financially. We were facing a $42 million deficit at that time. This is about 2.5 years ago. So we had to make some changes. And it came with some pain. We had to go through a reduction in force 2 years ago, and unfortunately, it wasn't the numbers that we had anticipated. It was 23 employees that were impacted by that, but that's 23 too many. That's 23 people, 23 families that suffered through that. We've also had to increase class sizes. And with those things, we've been able to pass 2 balanced budgets in a row with those changes primarily, but other cuts as well. It's still working. So, and that's not just me saying that we're doing better financially. Just recently, Moody's came out with their new credit rating and for 2 years a negative outlook for Moody's, and now we have a stable outlook. So already incredibly proud. We do understand that that's come with some challenges. Just to give you an idea, we have class sizes. And that's really one of the only ways that we're able to manage that. I see him running over here. Thank you. That's been the primary way that we've been able to achieve that. But if we want to bring class sizes back to normal ratios, at the elementary school alone, we'd need to hire 95 teachers. That's over $7 million. That's $7 million that we don't have. So that's come at a cost, and despite these challenges, we've managed to increase our state accountability scores. Went from an 83 to an 86 last year. This year we just got our scores, and we're at an 87. We also earned the Post-Secondary Readiness Distinction designation, which is the highest distinction you can get from the state. We're the largest district in the state of Texas to receive that designation. So we're overcoming these challenges, but it's painful. And it's honestly, it's not a sustainable model to have large class sizes. It's not good for kids and it's not good for teachers. But those are some of the ways that we've managed to control our budget and deal with the decline in enrollment.
Yeah, definitely difficult to hear, I think, for some parents. So the next question's for Mr. Soto. How is El Paso doing in educating our students, especially relative to the state and our regional competitors? Where are our successes and where do we need work and how do we improve?
Good morning. First, on a celebratory note, all three of our major school districts just got rated B in the A through F system. So that is a very high rating, and they only have one more level to go to get up to an A for their overall system. So that's a good note to start from. Students passing the state exams year over year at the meets level in reading and math indicates that the students are on grade level and have a 60% chance of graduating from higher education, as opposed to students just passing the exam at the minimum level called approaches. Those students who pass at that level have less than a 20% chance of graduating from higher ed. That's the longitudinal research that TEA has done. So we want to set the minimum bar for our community at the meets level. And we are right now, as we speak, right at the state average. This is the first time we've been competitive with the state overall. But we have some schools that have a high number of economically disadvantaged children that are almost twice as high as the state average, along with those children scoring near the overall school average. So those are very good signs, and that should be the goal for our elementary and middle schools, to have more schools improve to that level. At the middle school level, the state only requires that 40% of the students in a school district be identified at the end of the 5th grade to go into higher math and take Algebra 1 as a middle school student in the 8th grade. Today, both Socorro and El Paso have more than 90% of their 8th graders in Algebra 1. And Socorro in particular, tip my hat off to Mr. Vasquez, are amongst the highest performing middle schools in the state. And they have, as I said, over 90% of their kids in Algebra 1. So the goal should be, going forward, to have more of our middle schools have better than 90% of their children taking Algebra 1. And there are plenty of examples between El Paso and Isleta that it can be done. At the high schools, the highlight is our dual credit programs, early college access programs, and the professional tech dual credit programs. Since the pandemic was over, we have doubled the number of students in our high schools taking dual credit, from less than 5,000 to almost 10,000. So the goal should be to try to get up to 15,000 in the next decade across our schools. Last year alone, we had almost 1,000 high school graduates graduate with a associate's degree, and in the near future, that's going to grow to almost 2,000 kids because of the combination of those two programs, early access high school and professional tech programs. Right? A challenge, and that is the Texas Higher Education Board has a report that they do annually called T3, Texas Talent Trajectory. And what it measures is 8th graders 11 years later and what their outcomes are in terms of higher education. It has two main metrics. One, what percentage of our 8th graders, as they graduate from high school, go in directly into higher education? In El Paso, that's about 55 to 60% year in, year out. That's the highest in the state. All right? Over the last 15 years, El Paso has been first or second year in, year out. However, on the outcome end, we only have 23% of our 8th graders complete higher education. That's at the bottom of the 20 regions in the state. We send the most, but we graduate the least. And that's the challenge, is to make those numbers work for us. Continue to be sending the most kids to college, better prepared, so that that outcome number becomes higher. And as I started with, we need to celebrate, you'll see it in all the news, that the 3 major districts in El Paso got a rating of B in the A through F system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Thank you, Mr. Soto. All right, Ms. Carrillo, you said that people have a misconception about enrollment trends. Tell us about those misconceptions and also tell us how rural schools are responding to changes in enrollment.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. So this is a 2-part question. I will first talk about the how we are responding to declining enrollment in Tornillo, because that's what I'm experiencing firsthand. So every year, I've been there for 4 years now. This is my 4th year in Tornillo. And every year, the numbers are getting smaller and smaller, both teachers and students. So this year, for example, 7th and 8th grade moved to the high school. And they moved to the high school, and that leads me to one of the biggest misconceptions, is that because enrollment is going down, is declining, you would think that the class sizes are getting smaller, but like Mr. Vasquez was mentioning, you know, in reality, classes are getting bigger. I've spoken to some of my friends from colleagues, friends, that work for other districts, and they were mentioning that they are experiencing as a teacher that their classes are really big. And so that is very concerning, because as an educator, how can we teach effectively? How can we address every student and give the individual attention that they deserve? As an educator, we want our students to feel seen, supported, engaged, and safe. So my concern is that we don't lose educators in the process. And we can remember what happened, you know, during COVID. A lot of nurses and other medical professions left the field due to burnout. And so I think it will be very dangerous if our education system were to face those challenges. But yes, yes, I think that it's important, you know, to be proactive, wear our thinking caps, and try to help our educators and be supportive and take good care of our teachers, because at the end of the day, if we invest in our teachers, we're investing in our students' future. Thank you.
All right, and Dr. Tanabe, you and your UTEP colleagues are developing the next generation of educators. How do the enrollment and budget challenges for schools impact UTEP students who are considering a career in education? What do career opportunities look like for UTEP students going into education over the next 10 to 15 years?
First off, thank you for the opportunity to speak with all of you. Bob, thanks for putting this amazing event on and putting education in the center of this, of our future. Good morning. I think one way to start a response to that question is by talking about what we're already doing here in El Paso on the teacher talent pipeline front. This is going to sound, this is my 8th year here. We have 7 years of a fully transformed teacher preparation program at UTEP. As all of you know, we have a unique educational ecosystem here where UTEP is responsible for about 70+% of the entire teacher workforce in our region. So it's a huge responsibility that we own, and we've tried to live up to it. Now, I won't go into the details of the program changes. What I do want to say to you are some outcomes. We will release later, in maybe 2 to 3 week time frame, the results of the work that we've done. We started this transformation work about 7 years ago, and now we have 4 years or so of teachers in career, graduated through the residency, who are in career. We've tracked their students' educational outcomes. So 4th through 8th, reading and math STAR test data. Teachers who graduate from the minor teacher residency program show about a 1.5 to 2 month learning acceleration for their students, measured against every other teacher in Texas. So I know it sounds crazy, but right here in El Paso, with the incredible partners in this room, we've built the best teacher pipeline in the state. So I'm going to take a little applause for that. But what does that mean for a changing context in our region? I think 2 things can be true at the same time in responding to that. Enrollment may be contracting throughout Texas and here in El Paso, but at the same time, the need for highly qualified teachers is growing. There are a couple of reasons for that. One of those is hiring practices. For the past 10 years, Texas has decreased in certified new hires. So newly hired teachers have decreased over the past 10 years, and uncertified teacher hires have increased dramatically. That's changing. So moving forward, I think that'll start to flip, and the need there, obviously, for highly trained, certified educators is going to continue to grow. Our students at UTEP are in high demand. They're in high demand here in a region, and they're in high demand across the state, so we're seeing it on the ground. The longer-term outlook, I think, realistically, is that general elementary teacher roles are going to contract a bit or remain flat in El Paso, but there are key areas of high needs that we need to focus on in preparation and in workforce, in education. Those are going to be things like special education, bilingual education, computer science, and I think those areas of need are going to continue to grow. So there's a lot of work ahead. I think in general, there's a consistent growing need for great educators in our region and beyond. And I think you should be very proud of the work we've all done together here in El Paso on that front.
Thank you, Dr. Tanabe. I think, part of that conversation is, even though we see that there have been teacher cuts, throughout all the campuses, or not campuses, but a lot of the districts here, we actually have been seeing that there are still shortages in some of those areas that you've mentioned. So my next question is for all the panelists. What steps can we take to improve the financial stability of school districts? What ideas are you seeing that show promise? If anyone wants to start.
If I may, I have a laundry list of items. No, just a few things. One of the things that makes it so difficult with school budgeting is it's a moving target, and we have to be spot on with our projections. Just to give you an idea, this year our projection was to lose 800 students. So that's a loss of $8 million in revenue. So we have to adapt to that year after year. And since we're declining, now the following year we're going to have to plan for $8 million less or so. So I wish the state would take these things into considerations, because there are so many districts in this same pattern of decline. If they can hold the funding, hold us harmless for 2 years, that way we can adapt to these changes, because year after year it's incredibly difficult, and we have to pivot and take things into consideration, like reductions in force, like school closures. These things take time and planning. So if they could hold us harmless for an additional year, that way it helps us plan better. Another thing that I would like to see is base the funding on an enrollment rather than attendance. So that's another moving target that we're having to contend with. We're not funded based on the 45,000 students we have. We're funded on the attendance rate. So we're funded at 94% of the 45,000, which is about 41,000. So that makes it difficult also because we try different things to increase enrollment, but post-pandemic, we're now at about 94% is average, where it used to be closer to 96%. So that's additional lost revenue. And just finally, just in terms of what we can do here locally, I would love to see, and Bob alluded to it earlier, but I'd love to see more planning and more coordination and more conversations amongst the county and city leaders, the school leaders, business leaders, so we can plan forward together. I'm going to give you a perfect example. Right now, we are, on Monday, our Board of Trustees is going to vote to pursue another tax rate election. Isleta just announced earlier this week that they're going to do the same thing. The city and the county have both said that they're going to be raising taxes. So that's a lot on the taxpayer, and it really hurts, honestly, our chances of passing this when they're feeling this impact. You combine that with high gas prices, with the high grocery prices, affordability. It's not a made-up word. Some people say it is, but it's not a made-up word. That it's an impact, and it's real. And that's. But if we planned more effectively as a city for these, for these changes, I think that would just help all of us. So I would love to get in a room and just talk about our long-range plans from each of these entities to see how we can support each other, even if it's something like school closures, consolidations. How can the city or the county support in terms of this, of what we do with the schools once they're closed? Because I know that's always a concern with the neighbors is, well, what's going to happen to that school? I don't want it to be all run down and so forth. So how can we work together to plan these things more effectively?
If I may add to this, as a classroom teacher, yes, I think financial responsibility, accountability, and transparency are very important. But me as a teacher, I think we also play a role. I think we can help with the attendance, encourage attendance. I want students to be excited to go to school, and attendance matters to the financial health of schools. So we have to, as teachers, build strong relationships with students, families, and educate parents about the importance of attendance. So I think that as a teacher, we have to make schools a place where students want to be, and I think so. I think that's a way of helping with the financial situation. But transparency as well. I think it's important that the community and teachers know where the resources are going. I think it's also important to help out the teachers, to take good care of them, because it's an investment, like I said earlier. I just feel that, if we take care of our kids, they're going to have a better education, and that's it.
I think sometimes when we talk about taking care of teachers, that involves, pay and their benefits.
Yes,
right?
yes, and for them to get compensated for, I just think it's important.
Claudia, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
A few bienniums ago, legislatively, all our school districts were anticipating a significant increase in unspecified general revenue. And it didn't happen. But in the meantime, they all raised salaries. That, to the slippery slope of declining enrollment, even furthered that problem going forward. So the lesson to be learned is that the philosophy at the state level has changed. They're going to be more directive and specific about increasing revenue for school districts, leaving less opportunity for just general revenue. And so they should be anticipating that because it's going to become smaller, they should put that money in their general reserve and not put it into programs and salaries immediately. Lesson one. Lesson two, every school board ought to have a monthly report that compares projected enrollment against actual enrollment, that compares projected attendance, as the superintendent said, against actual attendance. And then what each of those generated and what's that look like in the budget for the school system. And so if there's less revenue to be generated, that is a signal that there need to be changes made at the program level in the school district. If they do some of those things, then I think that they'll have better control. They can also hire a statewide school finance expert consulting firm, not just to come in and analyze those things, expenses, revenues, and attendance, but to teach the school finance planning staff of the schools so that going forward they become better planners and can project better, so that the differences between what will happen and what they say will happen those gaps will become smaller and smaller. Therefore, the stability of the system will get better. But we're going to continue to see these declines in enrollments year over year. And the superintendent said, you know, every 1,800 kids means almost $10 million. You look at that in our three major systems, that's between $25 and $30 million loss year over year that they have to plan for, not only in the initial year, but they need to look at it in the second and third year and see what modifications they have to make in their system.
Claudia, I'll just add, to the spirit of Jim's earlier comments on collaboration, how we can do our part in higher ed, and particularly in teacher preparation, is to produce, again, teachers who are of great quality, but because they're trained in structured models like residencies, they're ready to retain. So they get into their jobs and they stay. Teacher turnover, I'm sure it definitely has performance-based, academic performance-based outcomes, but it also has cost outcomes. So that's, I think, what we're seeing in our data. Again, part of this evaluation that I've talked about, you'll see that as well. And our teachers in this program retain better, and they're spread throughout our regions. I think that's going to make a difference for financial stability long term.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for having us.